Hey.
Okay.
All right, Rod. So today we're going to talk about Elon Musk recently bought shares. Is that right? He's bought them?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, he's bought them, but he doesn't have the ownership yet.
Nope.
No. But well, the first question, if he did get ownership, which I've just heard an interview with him, and he said he doesn't want it at all because he feels he'd get a lot of pain.
Yes.
So that's what he said. But
yeah, so I think that's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if he did, what do you support that? What would it mean?
I would not support that.
Do you have concerns, Rod?
I do have concerns, Gerard.
What would they be?
Well, God, the sound is really. Well,
the spotlight's on you, Rod.
Yeah, let me move back.
Sun is shining.
Well, I just don't know if it's a smart thing in general, right, to put that much, such a heavy responsibility on one single person. I don't think that's a good idea. Twitter is very special, right? I mean, I know it's not the biggest company or whatever, but it plays a very unique role in the world, and it's going to be around for a long time. I think it's a very durable. If Twitter stays true to itself, and doesn't, go into this deal with Musk, I think they're a durable business plan, frankly. And the reason why is because they're not so profit driven, right? I mean, Twitter doesn't really exist that much to make a profit, which makes a lot of the shareholders angry. But it's just like, well, then don't invest in it, right? I mean, but I think Twitter is going to be around for a long time, and to give the sole proprietorship of that to one person to make the final decision on free speech, right? Which is what it really comes down to. It will not bode well for a future that wouldn't be tyrannical. Yeah. That's what I think.
So you're saying that decisions on free speech should be made by a group, many people, the shareholders, right? Not one man.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And
or some kind of elected panel by the people.
Yeah.
Which
and you said right? Twitter be remaining true to itself. What does that mean? What is it being true to itself?
Jack Dorsey was basically the founding spirit of it, right? And he's never really been driven by money, and it never grew into a huge company, which it could have, right? I mean, he could have allowed Twitter to become just swamped with ads and stuff, but it's really not. I think Twitter is a great platform, to be honest with you. I don't see what the big problem is. I mean, they have to make very difficult decisions about what to block or whatever. And sometimes they get it wrong, of course, but I don't think the answer to that is okay, let's just give it to Elon Musk, right? I mean, it just doesn't seem like, I get there might be a problem. Maybe they go overboard, right? Maybe one side is targeted a bit more, but I wouldn't say the entire structure should just be completely overthrown. It just, and especially privatizing it. I mean, I know what the advantages of privatizing it are, but yeah.
Isn't it privatized already? Isn't having shareholders? Isn't that privatizing it?
No, that means owned by that. Yeah, that's a public company. So anybody can buy shares in Twitter, right? So it's a publicly traded company.
Publicly traded, okay. Because I when I hear private and public, I think government owned. So it's not, you don't.
Oh, I see.
You don't mean government owned. You mean publicly traded, right?
Yeah. when we say public and
but that's still surely just because he has a lot of shares. It's still he's part of the public, isn't he? That's still public.
Yes. So if he had taken a seat on the board, which I also didn't want to happen, then yeah, as a person with enough shares to sit on that board, he would have been part of a group that made group decisions on things that like free speech. But instead, he knew he'd have to be subject to a background check, and he thought he was just going to buy his way onto the board. He was going to walk in like a hero, probably, and he found out there was a process to become a board member. So, in short order, he swiftly changed his mind.
I see. Yeah. So, what do you think would change if he did have control? What would he change regarding free speech?
Well, he has portrayed himself as a free speech absolutist, right?
Yeah,
He has openly complained that he thinks it's too left leaning, right? That Twitter is too it's like pushing a leftist agenda, and that that conservatives are being canceled, right? That's the I mean, it's not. I mean, first of all, in general, right? We don't want anybody to be in that position. But if this person in particular did it, right? If he just bought, if this deal actually goes through, which I don't think it's going to, but if he does end up acquiring Twitter, he's going to be under a lot of pressure from all sides, right? I mean, it's going to be very, very difficult. He could do things like bring back Trump, for example. But I think in a short period of time, he would realize that you do have to have rules. You need to have rules when it comes to these public forums where people are posting. Because if you don't have rules, then I mean, if you are saying literally anything can be said, right? I mean, come on, like that's impossible. We're talking about there'd be like propaganda campaigns for like genocide, right? Like Russia, right? But can't stop it because it's freedom of speech. They got the right to say it, right? I mean, it's just not. I don't think that perspective. I mean, I want to hold it, right? I mean, I want to have that libertarian view because I know there's like emotional satisfaction in it, right? But when you really stop and look at what happens, and you do have to make very tough decisions, and I think, well, his supporters definitely want him to go a certain way with it, right? The people who are most on board with this are ones that want him to push it in a more right-wing direction.
Right. Have you heard the expression freedom of speech is not freedom of reach?
No, but it makes sense.
I like it because whenever someone's, oh, well, I have the right to say this in a certain forum. Well, no, you don't. I mean, if it's my house, I can decide whether you can come in or not and say whatever you want to do. So, yeah, freedom of speech means, first of all, that you don't go to prison for saying things, right? But it doesn't mean you have the right to speak anywhere. It's up to the person who owns the forum. Yeah,
exactly. But another concern I have about Twitter in particular is that Elon Musk has long been a user of it, right? And he's basically the star user of Twitter, right? For years. Oh yeah, for a long time. He's been. Well, he's doing the coolest shit, right? He's got SpaceX, he's got Tesla going on. They're just posting constantly about stuff and
self-driving cars.
Yeah, and then he's also just tweets in his spare time, right, about whatever he's thinking about, and he's really, he's got. I don't think he's got like the most followers, but he's like the most active that has a huge following, right? So,
Right. Do you follow him?
I did until he bullied his way onto trying to be on. And I just, something happened, man. Like something shifted in me, and I just felt differently about him. And I don't even go on Twitter anymore. It's like I don't see. Well, one of my concerns is for this person in particular, right? Is he's got a certain following, and the following is very quite assertive in their expression, right? And so no dissent. You know, if you say anything critical about Elon Musk on Twitter, I mean, you get ripped apart by people who remind you of all of his great accomplishments, you know, and if you haven't done that, then shut up or something like that, right? And it's like, well, you know, I think he's doing cool shit. You know, I really want him to continue doing his work at Tesla and SpaceX. I think it's really important what he's doing at SpaceX, right? But I don't think he should be in charge of our public forum, which I believe Twitter is, right? It's basically like the public forum of the world now, right?
Yeah, those are his words. Yeah,
the
town marketplace. Yeah, the town marketplace.
Yeah.
But do you have concerns that it would inhibit free speech, or have there be too much free speech if he's in charge?
Well, he would allow some more, and I think others would be more silenced by his followers. You know,
by his followers, right?
Yeah. I mean, people worship him, man. Like this is no joke. Like there is a cult around Elon Musk. So that's where I get worried. Like if we give it to him, even if he makes sensible decisions, we're still going to live in the world according to like Elon Musk. And any criticism you just, you know, is just, I mean, people are so, it's just there's a mean spiritedness, I think, sometimes that's going on in that camp, frankly. You know, and I'm not even attributing it to him directly, but I just think within that paradigm of people who really follow him, and like when I followed him before, I used to see posts like that were just like praising him, like Elon Musk is doing, you know, is like the savior of the day. I mean, maybe not like the savior of the day, but people are writing these long things about how great he is. It's like, you know, that doesn't feel safe to, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I heard he's he's doing amazing things with the cars. It was the third big change in car manufacturing. Ford was the first one with the production line.
Yeah.
The second one was in Japan, something about when you need some parts, they come in exactly when you need them. That sort of timing. So that was the second great change. And the third one is he's managed to make the body of the car all in one piece of metal.
Oh,
so
okay.
Which people thought could never be done. So yeah, he can produce so many cars now because of that.
Interesting. Yeah, no.
What's going on with the space then? Well, why do you think the SpaceX is so important?
The what? The SpaceX?
You said that's important.
Well, yeah. I mean, if humanity wants to survive in the very, very, very long term, we're going to have to, you know, be spacefaring, I believe.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, in the long, I mean, I'm not talking about our lifetime or even our grandkids or anything like, or even a few generations beyond that. But there will come a time when, yeah, it will be. I think it'll be necessary to explore the cosmos physically. Yeah. Long distances.
but it's too far, from my understanding.
Well,
Mars is 6 months, is that right?
I don't know. I have no idea.
It's a long way, and that's that's obviously one of the nearest. And
Yeah.
after that, it's just you're talking
right. Well, there's
millions.
ways, like I'm not saying we have them now, but I do believe we will learn how to make life a lot longer if we want to. We'll figure out how to genetically modify, make the modifications to have long lifespans.
So you can travel long distances.
In fact, I saw a commercial one day where it started off. It said the first person to live to be 1,000 years old has already been born. It was for one of these new biotech companies, right? That's right. But anyway, there is, I do think, the scientists understand that, where the aging is happening in the genes, right? And I think, they are trying to figure out ways to see if there are ways to slow that down. And, there could be some promising.
And
a breakthrough.
A
breakthrough could happen anytime, right?
Sure. And you think the future's in space because Earth will become unlivable? Climate change? He's very positive about that, by the way.
Yeah.
He thinks carbon capture and obviously wind and solar and nuclear will all come through.
I hope so.
And battery storage, that's the key. It's all about battery storage, and that's another thing he's working on. So obviously the problem with solar is the sun doesn't shine all the time, so you need to store the energy. And anyway, he's very sanguine.
Yeah, sure. Sanguine.
He's made me feel better about
yeah. But I don't know, man. Sometimes I just don't know. Like, we might even have the technology that he's talking about to do what he's talking about, but is the political will going to be, that's the hard part. It's will the leaders make decisions, that carry us forward like that? Because, I mean, our entire world is so dependent on these fossil fuels, right? I mean, it's just like, I don't see that much political will to do those kinds of things.
Yeah, but eventually it's cleaner. I mean, the people want to live in clean cities, don't they? It's cheaper. It's essentially free, the sun.
Right.
So, of course, most countries don't have the resources, oil and coal, so they want to. I think it's possible eventually, if we have time.
Yeah, but I mean, but here's one thing I remember. Over here at Denver International Airport, there are 6 acres of no, I'm sorry, I take that back. There are about 40 acres of solar panels outside of the Denver airport on the way in, and 40 acres of solar panels only makes 6% of the power for DIA.
Yeah.
Okay, so if that's where we're really at with solar power right now, unless we turned like Saudi Arabia into a one big solar panel, which I'm totally in favor of, or like Nevada,
not a desert
here, right? Like Nevada could be huge land, right? Could be turned over to solar panels. But if the 40 acres of panels only yielded 6% of DIA's power, then I mean I just like, wow. I mean, how do you actually do that in a world, right? I mean,
Yeah.
how do you?
Well, I think nuclear is definitely part of the solution, isn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm a huge proponent of. I mean, nuclear is really.
Yeah.
I think we should just be all over that right now, in my opinion. Just like working on it, and it sounds like we're making progress on fusion as well, which is a different way of making solar power, which is it's more difficult to make, but it's a lot safer and cleaner and can't be turned into weapons. I don't think, as far as I'm aware. And so it's like the ultimate. If we get that down, like they call that the holy grail of power, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Getting back to Musk, how is he different from the Murdoch empire or Bezos owning the Washington Post? What's the difference?
Well, in those cases, there's, those are two, titans, I guess, but they're in like a certain playing field, right? So they're each, they're one of each, right? So Murdoch is huge. I understand that, but still, his influence is somehow limited, right? Because he's not the ultimate clearinghouse, is he? Of the world's news, actually. That would be Twitter.
Like Twitter.
Right, exactly.
Like Twitter, yeah.
So, and Jeff Bezos owns the Washington. I mean, the Washington Post is huge. It has a huge, circulation, but again, it doesn't have the reach that Twitter does. Even if you don't use Twitter, right? I mean, even if you're not a Twitter user, you are still being directly, I mean, I guess indirectly, impacted by it. Because that's where the professional class is, right? I mean, that's where all the professional journalists are. That's where all the politicians are, right? That's where all the leaders of the society are. So even if you don't go to Twitter directly, you're still going to get so many so much of your news is going to come directly from the content of Twitter, right? So that puts it on a different level of Murdoch and Bezos, right? So now, in my opinion, I have doubts that he even really wants to buy it, because it's just too much. It would make his life so miserable. He would have to make the decisions that would make everybody unhappy, right? I mean, everybody would end up being disappointed in him if he did it somehow, right? I mean, like Mark Zuckerberg does not look like he's having a good time, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't seem like the kind of business that you want to be the sole proprietor of, right? And so, and I think if he wanted to have bought it, he would have made a much higher offer, right? I think he offered something that they could easily say no to.
Wasn't he? Didn't he just buy shares?
Yeah, he bought 9% of the company, and they offered him a board seat if he agreed to only buy up to 15%, and then he would have to stop at 15%.
Oh, I see.
As a board member, but he would have like voting rights and all that, right? So then he found out there was actually a process to get on the board, and went.
Okay.
Decided not to do it, right? And then, of course, not being on the board now, that gives him the freedom to outright buy it. He can buy the other 90%, right? He can just buy the whole thing. Yeah. He's got enough money to do so. I mean, the market value of Twitter is not that big, right? It's actually quite small for the influence that it has, and if he bought it outright with all of what he has, it would only be about 10% of his entire net worth, right? So it would be nothing to him, basically, right? To buy it. Although it would be hard because if he wanted to buy it outright like that without any other funding from nobody else, you would have to sell quite a bit, quite a few Tesla shares, and that is not something that bodes well for, like, if you're the CEO and you're selling lots of shares, that's that's
doesn't look good,
thing, right? That's a negative thing for your company, right? So
yeah.
So
and Twitter has
Tesla has been going down also since this whole thing started. This whole drama with Tesla, with Twitter, hasn't boded very well for Tesla so far, right?
And Twitter have taken some action, haven't they? They're trying to sell cheap shares, right, to their shareholders to stop him having
like half price
ownership.
I've heard.
Yeah,
like really good discount. So, but
it's called poison something. Have you heard the term? Do you know the term?
Poison pill. I just learned it.
Poison pill.
Poison
pill.
Yeah,
there we go.
That's where they make an offer back that he can't possibly do. I mean, he could, but it would stretch him so far to to take their offer. Right. So I just think he was doing this to shake up Twitter, I guess. I think he's bored, when you're that rich, this is what you get to do when you're bored, right? He loves to troll Twitter, but I really think, I just hope he'll just kind of leave Twitter alone, frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the Twitter should draw up like a charter of some kind, like we will always remain a public entity, right? Like we will never be privatized. Even though I do agree with people who say that privatization would bring some good improvements, actually, that I think would be hard to make public. But
such as,
well, you'd have to charge more, I think, for subscription. I don't think it would be as free.
It's free at the moment, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can pay. There are paid. You can get a subscription too, for if you want like a higher level of it. If you're a big name or something, you can pay for certain features as a big promotion.
So there's no advertising, and it's free to join. How do they make their money? Just from that?
Well, there is
subscriptions. Oh, there is advertising, right?
Yeah,
but not much.
Not like you see on Facebook, though. So,
right.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the thing. It doesn't make money. It's broken even since it went public in 2013, I guess. It's broken even now. I mean, it's gone through pretty big volatility over the years, including recently. After Musk bought, and it went up about, it's like 30% higher about since then. But since the whole news, it's just been declining again. So that's that's why a lot of investors are saying take his offer, because if they sold it to him at that price, they would the shareholders would get roughly $10 more per share than they have now.
Wow.
So they think, I mean, it would be it would be pretty good money for the people that are already in with a large amount of shares, right? But I think there's more of like a emotional thing at play here. This is more, Twitter plays a role that's bigger than money, right? And so I think it's always going to break even if it doesn't change, which isn't good for a public company. But on the other hand, it's like, well, this is the kind of company you invest in with your heart, right? You're not there to make a lot of money. You're there because you believe in the service, right? And so it's important that rich people invest a few $1 million in Twitter, right, to keep it floating. But it's not a place that I don't think anyone's ever going to make money, right? But that's not really what it's for, I guess, at the end of the day. So.
Okay. All right. Let's wrap it up, Rod. Anything else to say on Musk and Twitter? Will you be rejoining at any time? Maybe I should join.
I didn't like leave. I didn't like delete my account or anything, but I just haven't. Well, I don't know. You know, I'm kind of a commenter. You know, I like to. You know, I get into.
You like to ruffle some feathers.
I do. I like to have fun. You know, it is. You know, trolling is fun. You know, I do share that sense of satisfaction that Musk has. With, you know, but and I'm not like mean or anything. You know, I don't like insult people, but
you don't join pylons, Twitter pylons.
What are pylons? No, I don't think I know.
You know, where everybody. I think the most famous one was the lady on the plane. Did you hear about that one? You didn't hear about it?
What happened?
Well, she tweeted something that was not acceptable to the Twitter users, and she got on a plane and she was unknown, and then 6 hours later, you know, it just blown up, and millions been retweeting her tweet and attacking her. So pylon. So when she got off the plane, she was piled on and attacked.
No, I've never been part of a pylon.
So yeah,
no,
amazing.
That's the worst usage of social media, in my opinion. I mean, that's the lowest.
But you troll. You troll each other.
Troll in a way. I have conversations, you know. I mean, I get a lot of responses that go back and forth. I mean, it you know, but yeah, I like to, you know, share my perspective and knowing that it's different than what the majority is in that particular conversation, right? Just to show another side.
All right. Well, maybe I'll join, Rod, and I'll follow you if you go back.
What? Have you never been on Twitter?
I think for a day, and
I only went on.
It incredibly annoying. I mean, I suppose this back and forth of people. I just thought, but you know, I mean, maybe I'll follow Musk. I liked him in the interview. He interesting guy, positive, very positive.
Yeah, I mean that entrepreneurial thing, right? I mean, you don't ever show like a negative, right? It's just. Yeah,
and he mentioned that, I mean, of course, he makes a lot of incorrect predictions and he makes a lot of mistakes, but all of his mistakes are put into the media, and you know, a lot of the good stuff he does isn't. That's just the way it is. The more you do things, the more mistakes you're going to make, and the more predictions you make. You know, so yeah, I like the sound of old Elon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, well, good.
We'll end it there.
Let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
Stop the recording here.